Well, hello and welcome to another episode of Adam's Music Box, where today we're remembering Gene Pitney, a man who had one of the most inexplicable and unexplainable careers ever. Now, he really began to become a superstar in the early 60s, after beginning in the 50s, with a string of hits, mostly love songs, but he also had the Western theme, The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance, which was a huge hit, and one of my favorites of all time, I think one of the best songs of all time, Town Without Pity. And it was Gene Pitney who put that on the map before the likes of Ronnie Montrose did his version and Frank Zappa did his. Lots of people have done that, but it was Gene Pitney who put that on the map. And he had so much success with both with songs like those that he sort of put his stamp on, and others like Unchained Melody you see on the street where you live that others, including Victor Moan, sung. He was sort of your all-purpose pop star, but one with rock and roll sensibilities who appealed to the young people. You could sort of kind of put him in the same category as someone like Bobby Darin. Now, Gene Pitney had a very long career, but at the same time, it was one that it can really be divided into two parts because in the late 60s and into the 70s and 80s, he sort of faded into the background in the American pop charts, but he became a huge superstar in Europe and Australia. And that to me is really inexplicable because his musical style didn't really change. That same sort of voice that was very distinct. It was one that really cut through the AM receivers, even though by the late 60s and 70s people were switched on to FM. But he had that really interesting voice with that really distinct timbre, and he just became a huge superstar out of the US. It's as though he took this style of pop, and for whatever reason, being in the right place at the right time, he was sort of responsible for exporting it physically, where others just, did their tours. He ended up touring around the rest of the world a lot more and having lots of hits that never really made it back to his home market. Now, he sold loads of records over the years, both with his early hits and with the stuff that was selling mostly in the UK, in Europe, in Australia, and elsewhere. He even did an album of Spanish themed songs. Really, really prolific when you just look at his discography. Now, he died in 2006, and I remember it well. He had already kind of faded into the background by then, but at the same time, he was still very much beloved by a lot of people who had his back catalog and who had gone to many of his shows. And what's really strange is that in 2006, 66 seemed super old, and now it seems super young. I mean, Eddie Van Halen, I think, was 65 when he died, and that felt like we hardly got to know you. So that says stuff about how maybe the world in a very short period of time has changed. It also maybe says something about the era in which Gene Pitney first got popular in his home market before sort of fading away and making it big a second time in other markets. Lots of interesting stuff going on there, but he was one of the great of the sort of pop rock and roll style singers. And again, Town Without Pity, one of the best songs ever, and Gene was the one who put it on the map. As always, like, subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Take care.